Thank you so much for coming out this morning to listen to me. I'm a web designer. This is what I do. It's my fun, and I'm really lucky in that folks will find me out and ask me to help them with their web processes. Please bear with me. I usually am behind a screen. I rarely present. So I'll be a little nervous, and I have a lot of information to present to you today. And there'll be time, hopefully, for a bunch of questions at the end. So make sure you jot them down and you're ready for me at the end. I am going to take you, I'm trying to keep to the description where I'm going to tell you the process of the website, talk a little bit about whether you do it yourself or, do we have any people that are interested in the do-it-yourself aspect? Okay, all right. So brace yourselves. There's a lot to it. I'm going to touch a little bit on whether you do it yourself or hire a designer, and then I'm going to go into the processes that I do through my design process. So some of this might get a little more vast, but at least you're going to see everything, and you may be small now, but know that if you're doing it well, you're going to get to the bigger sites in your future. Technology, right? There we go. So I'm president and digital strategist of Village Green Consulting. John gave me a good bio already, but the tagline I use is I rescue businesses from dysfunctional websites. It's sad but true, but every single site that folks come to me with just isn't working. Either it's not meeting their audience or it's not functioning. It's not technically working properly. So those are the projects that I really love to take on, are the kind of broken ones. Case in point, this is the ASA website. On the left is the picture of before. The image isn't even loading anymore. On the right is what the redesigned one was. So when you're approaching your website project, what we always need to do is we really need to think about the goals. Websites are functional pieces for your business. You need to really understand or think about what do you want it to do for you and for your business. So do you have content that you need to distribute? Are you an expert in your field and you want to post blog posts? That's one software function. Do you need to sell? Do you need an e-commerce piece? That's a different function. So there are all different things that you really need to think about before you even begin. You need to understand not only what your product is, but also then how does that need to function online. Knowing this will really help you make the decision as far as what type of solution is going to be the right solution when you're doing your own research, or if you're hiring someone, you can be telling them in a more educated manner. It's really great to define your goals and know what the ultimate function needs to be for it. I'm putting this up at the very beginning. It's one of the things that my clients almost always struggle with. It's identifying who the customer is. So often we have something that we love to do. I absolutely love doing websites. I could show you before and after galleries until your eyes cross. Like, I would talk about that all the time if I could. However, that's not what you care about. What you're going to care about is, what is it that I can do for you? How can I help you grow your business? Your clients are the exact same. What you really need to do is you need to get into their heads and figure out, what do they want? A website is a storytelling opportunity. There's other people you can go to for marketing. There's even people who do this story branding for you, but it's really important to know who they are, what is it that they want, and then how do you present that content and the way in choose images as well as written content that's really going to touch them where they'll say, aha, no, this is the company that I need. This is the person I need to work with. This is the right fit for me. So you need to always make sure that that's at the top of your mind, and in everything you do is who are they and what do they need, and how are you going to rescue them from whatever their ailments are. So you've defined what the tools are, and you've defined who your audience is. Now there are a lot of different solutions out there. I just did this crazy list, and this is just the teeny tiniest part of it. So Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, those are actual website building tools. If you've heard of Wix and Squarespace, those are a little bit easier for the do-it-yourself folks. For those of you who are interested in doing that, they have templates that you can use, and then you can just plug in your content into it. So it can be very easy. But again, you're going to have to do it yourself. So it's like, is the time worth it to have to figure this out? But they are pretty simple. They're drag and drop interfaces. Calendly, for doing scheduling, or if you're doing events, like if you have a physical shop, then you want to bring people in, you're doing events, Calendly is a really easy tool. There's a few other ones similar to that where you can have that calendar and they'll give you, it's called an embed code. So look for an embed code and you can actually pop that into your website. And then allow people to look at your upcoming events or sign up for booking. Like I use something similar to that for clients to get into my schedule for open meeting slots. WordPress, that gets into, even with Shopify, you can help developers with it. I primarily use WordPress. What I love about it is I can still use the templates that I plug in, but then I fully customize them based on who the client is, what their brand is, and it gives me there are a lot more tools available to me. So when I'm doing that very beginning part of setting the goals, I know, okay, if we need a blog, that's built into WordPress. It's like 101. But if I need a calendar, I know what I can plug into it. If there's membership software, typically you don't use membership software that's built into WordPress, but you would use a separate membership software plugin and then make them talk. That's one where my third bullet point is if you need multiple solutions, like Calendly, and you need these to talk, it's really important to make sure that that customer service or that customer experience, again, back to the customers, is cohesive. So even if you end up needing different things, so you have your physical site that talks about who your business is and what your products are, and you have the e-commerce experience, if those two things are different, you want to make sure that they have that same branding package and they look like one experience from your customer's perspective. Okay, a little bit more about do-it-yourself versus designer. Things to consider is the finances. So you may be thinking about doing it yourself to begin with. Just know that you're going to have a learning curve when coming up with the software. Like I said, there's a couple of those easy out-of-the-box solutions that you can plug and play with, but it's going to require time, and it's time that takes you away from your business. So for starting out, almost everyone either does it themselves or hires a nephew or somebody's kid to do it, and then there's different levels. So once you're past that stage, then you can hire probably a smaller designer or an agency. Costs can go anywhere from a few $1,000s up to, the bigger brands here are probably spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on their having an agency work for them. So price is definitely something to factor in. Again, learning curve, that gets into do you have the time to learn it? You may just find it fun, and it's kind of something that's neat to do. Ongoing support for WordPress. I know that there's a lot of folks who will try to take over the management of the WordPress site itself, but there's just a lot of updates and behind the scenes things that need to happen to the websites. So just making sure whatever tool you choose, you know that you have the time to put into it in the future, because websites, you just can't launch it and then forget it. They take maintenance. Have a plan before you go into it. If you decided, now this is where we go into moving with a contractor. If you go into working with a contractor, here are the just contract basics that you should make sure in this site. And this is going to really protect you as well as the contractor by defining each one of these things. Really know before you go into anything, before you give any money up front, what it is you're going to get. As far as cost up front, typically contractors want about a percentage, so either 30 to 50% up front, and then the percentage toward the middle as things are coming together, and then the final payment before the launch of the site. And then there would be ongoing maintenance fees for doing updates, keeping the site hosted, and that type of thing. I just really want to touch on the photo search, permission, and ownership. Early on in my career, I had a massage parlor come to me, like a legit massage business, and they were sued by Getty Images for $15,000 because the designer they had worked for put stock images in and didn't pay for them. So never, ever, ever go to Google. It's so easy. Do not go to Google. Look for images. Pop it in anything. Do not pop it in your website. Do not pop it in your social media. Do not pop it in your emails. Do not pop it in your print thing, unless you know you have the ownership rights for that. There are free stock photo sites like Pexels, where as long as you cite who the photographer is, you cite the source, you're fine. You can use those for free. But make sure that if you're using something like iStock Photo, Getty's a little fancier, but it has more unique things. But if you're using any of those Shutterstock, you need to buy those images. They will find you, I promise you, and you don't want to have to deal with lawyers. All right, so once the initial launch is done, I usually do I like to call a meeting of the minds with clients. And what it is it's giving me a chance to really understand who they are, who their business products are, and then also really getting into that customer piece I talked about earlier. Who are your clients? What do they need? How do we reach them? What have you done in the past? And what is your dream for the future? What I always like to do is make sure I understand where they see the business and how we can apply that to online solutions over the next 5 years. It's also why I work with WordPress. If I set the right foundation, we don't have to redesign in 3 years when we're adding a new component. We can use that existing foundation and just build upon it. So doing a really great meeting at the beginning is important, and then from that meeting, we're able to create a sitemap. And what that is it's basically a map of all the pages in the site. And the part that usually knowing what pages are needed is a little more intuitive, but then what to call them, the semantics of it, the wording of each of those pages is where it gets a little more complicated, because you want to find the words that allow people to say, like membership is an obvious word, but it's, the education hub, what ASA had to go through, there's a bit of a decision-making process to figure out, is that going to be an intuitive enough name for what that service is? So the sitemap really helps us define that. The other piece about it is the tool I use lets me also put notes on each of the pages where I start then outlining, here's the content that's going to be on the home page. Here's what I want to have on the advocacy page. Making sure that you're familiar so when you start building it out, you actually know it. You never ever just sit down and create a website. You actually put all the plan into it. I'm sure it's with product development. You don't just go out and make it. You have all the different steps that you have to go through in order to make sure that that final product is perfect, or the first round close to perfect, the next round perfect. So specifying brand guidelines is a little one-pager I do for my clients. There are agencies who will give you the multi-page documents. This is a little quick sheet I always do for myself, just so it's something I can reference back to. So what it's doing is it's telling me, I always put the client logo at the top, but then it's telling me what the fonts are. And I usually have one type of font for the header and then another for the body content. Sometimes it works in both, but for the body content, it really needs to be easy to read and have enough width between the letters. There's a lot of fancy design terms that go along with it. But just making sure that you choose the right fonts. And also fonts really can be reflective. Like, we're not going to use a fancy serif font with all the flourishes for American Sport Fishing Association when it's really much more of a straightforward organization. And it's like, no, you're not going to use a flourishy font for outdoorsy. It's like just basic design principles. And then the color palette as well. So we usually have some primary colors. Obviously the blue and green are the primary ASA colors, and then we put in the accent colors. I have a slightly different color palette that I use for iCast, and the two work together, so they complement, but there's subtle differences. So as viewers, you know that you're on the iCast site. It's obvious because we use slightly different fonts and colors on that, versus ASA is much more of the government affairs and issues and member resources. Oh, I'm okay on time. All right, so preparing for content and images. I already talked about writing for your audience. Here's some little tips and tricks. You always want to have at least 2 calls to action. So obviously the first one is you want them to buy or to contact you. It's like the one, like basically the opportunity where you're getting them in as a lead for through your sales process, whether it's products or services. The second one is a capture one. So do you have maybe, can you pose yourself as an expert in bass fishing in your region? Sign up for the weekly tips. So it's a way, you want to think of what is something that I can offer where there's something that they have to give me in order to get that knowledge. And it can be just like a little email capture form. Other options are, white paper. So maybe if you're a manufacturer and you have white paper that's talking about the benefits of how to use this product in the industry. It could be something that, again, they would give their email for, and then they would immediately get the white paper. But you just don't want to give away things. You want them to have to work for it a little bit. And then you have that list, and you know they're a more captive audience, so you can then start oh gosh, for my do-it-yourselfers, this is getting to be a lot. You could set up email marketing campaigns then. So you would have maybe once a month you do a little newsletter about what's happening and things they should be interested in. So you keep your brand top of mind. Always keep it very simple. I think I have a slide about content. I can talk a little bit more. Oh, duplicate content. So you do not want to be saying the same thing on 2 different pages. You should always be either referencing back to that page or just find a different way to, so I would do the sitemap at the beginning, is we really want to make sure that you're continuing to encourage people to explore their way through the site, and eventually you're funneling them into that sales process or the second call to action. And then coming soon, I have never, knock on wood, used the words coming soon in a website. There's always something better that you can do instead of a coming soon page. Again, we can do data capture. You can do just a 1 page. So if it's a newer business or you're launching a new product, instead of saying coming soon, you must have enough information to be able to describe at least what the essence of it is, again, in words that are going to appeal to folks, and use it as an opportunity to capture their information. So saying, hey, we will tell you when this product launches. Or when we announce, what was it? I know that Quantum just had this. They had a coming soon page, and then they launched this beautiful website. So instead of having a pop-up form for it, they could have just had the contact information right within the page itself. Like, there's just some really beautiful things that you can do that are far more creative than a coming soon. Like, give them a little something to engage. The next stage is actually wireframing it out. So you've done all this research, you've identified some of the content, kind of know what the images are. This is the site that I'm working on right now. On the left is the current site that they have. They have not updated the overall design in 15 years. It's built on an 8-year-old WordPress version that they cannot update. There's a whole bunch of going on. Talk about dysfunctional. They are the first ones to admit it. And it is why they brought me on. The middle one is what a wireframe is. So this is something that I did, and what it is it's just grayscale. I didn't use any of their colors or whatsoever because we wanted to make sure that we clearly defined what is the content that's going to be on the homepage. What is the story that we need to tell? And then on the right-hand side is the manifestation of the design. So you can see, or of the wireframe, you can see there's subtle differences in it, because as then we're starting to, as they're writing the content, we're putting in the images, we find ways to even funnel it down, make it even simpler, just to capture that audience. Like, the first thing we want to do is, this is for executive job searches, the first thing we want to do is we want them to search for jobs. Because if they search for jobs, part of their functionality is they capture their name, their email, the salary level that they're on, the types of industries they're looking for. So for them, that is a major call to action lead generation tool for them. And that's the foundation of their business. So it's like, it's kind of fun. All right. So now, I mean, there's all that building the website stuff that I won't go into. Now I just wanted to touch briefly on how to get people to your website. And I just wanted to familiarize yourself. You may have heard of search engine optimization, SEO. That is something that we do. We can do it either to the site itself. There's also tactics you can do to third-party locations. It's a matter of, one thing you can do is find out what the search terms that people are putting into Google, Bing, search engines that will, where they're looking for what you do, but they don't know who you are. So that's what traditional search engine optimization is. It's identifying what those words are that they are searching in, and then doing a whole bunch of things to your website in order to then get it lifted up. So there's natural search engine optimization, which can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, and you need to have a lot of content that's constantly being updated on your site for it to happen naturally. There's also paid advertising. You'll see when you get your Google search results, the little things that say ad. Those companies are paying for that position. And it's like a bidding process where you can say, well, I want to be at the top, so I will pay $100 per click. And therefore, they will be at the top of that. And then if someone clicks, they're going to have to pay that money. Those are for the very competitive terms. If you find terms that are a little more obscure, you don't have to pay as much. You also can say, oh, I don't want to be ranked top, but I want to be ranked, close. So there's ways to adjust it based on what your budget is to get placement. A very, very simple way to get a little bit of traction on Google is to claim your Google business page. So if you search for your company name, on the right-hand side is that little thing that shows the map location, business information, hours, a little description. You can add photos to that. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and it'll say, is this your business? If you haven't claimed it yet, go ahead and claim your business before someone else does. And then if you have hours of operation, just go in and populate it. Google has made it really simple for you to be able to update that page, but that's a very simple thing you can do, and then put in that description of what your business is, and it'll even give you like little an area to do bullet points. It's a very, very simple, basic SEO thing that's free that you can do yourself. Just make sure to check it periodically and keep it updated. Social media marketing, I'm not even going to touch on that. We've had other speakers at ICAST that have talked about it. I know in the Education Hub, if you log in, there's other presentations you can watch. But it's a way of, it's huge, and it's a way of putting yourself out as a brand, as a personality for your business on different social media channels. And then by having a nice website, you direct them back there, and then you can do that lead capture piece. Brand ambassadors, those are actual human beings. We had a session yesterday where they spoke, and they will go and advocate for your brand. And they are the ones who already have built up these fancy social media profiles where they have a lot of followers, and you pay them or work out something where they will go and they will talk about your business and then drive traffic to your website and help expand exposure to your brands. And then there's traditional marketing. Print still isn't gone. I keep seeing little resurges of it. So that's still around, doing print mailers, sponsoring local events. If there's a little lead team, think about like right now, I have kids who are in swim, and we have local businesses who are sponsoring it. And so not only all the different kids that have to come in for swim meets see these banners around the pool, but they also are getting the visibility of anyone who comes to the pool then outside of swim meets. So there's just little ways of gaining exposure, whether it's your local community or a broader one. Oh, here's another term. Have you heard of responsive websites? And there's responsive, like when do you need a responsive website versus an app? I've only done responsive websites. So what that means is you build it, and all of the, like Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress all have this, all the page builders do. When you're building it, there's a little icon that looks like a desktop monitor. The default is going to be the desktop view, and you're designing it in that, and what you do is then you can go to tablet view, and it shows you how the design adjusts for tablet as well as mobile. So it's one website, but from the design capabilities, you're able to adjust it to appear differently based on the type of device someone is using. So often I focus primarily on, I'll do a little bit of tablet work, but when you look at the statistics, just not a lot of folks use tablet on most of the sites I do. It's definitely desktop, and it's often more than half of people are on the mobile phones. So what I'll do is I can use videos in the graphic, like the iCast website homepage has that, the fisherman in the background, a video that's running. Well, it's fine for desktop, but not on mobile, because what about people that either have poor data or are connectivity or don't have a big enough plan for all that data? So we switch it to a graphic on mobile phones, and that can all be done within the website software itself. Even with placement of content where I'll have an image with text, and when you smush it, it'll pop up above it. Well, what if I have image text, image text, text image? Well, then all of a sudden it's image, text, image. In the mobile design for that, I'll just move that image above it so it becomes image, text on a phone. So responsive means only one website. Make sure that you have that. If you're hiring someone, make sure that you're accounting for responsive, but it's all one. It's not a separate one. For an app, if you need an app is typically if you have already an audience that you've captured. So iCast, we have an app for the iCast show. We don't have an app for the actual website because the website's responsive. If you're an e-commerce business, you could have an app for your e-commerce store, because if you have enough customers who are coming back repeatedly, they're going to want to have that app. It's like Amazon. It's like giving the opportunity to buy your product online. And a lot of the e-commerce software solutions will have an app option for you if you so choose. There's a different technology permissions you have to go through for submitting apps through Android and Apple platforms, but apps are a little, they're different, and they present themselves very differently than you would a website. You wouldn't just put a website as an app. Be duplicating your efforts unnecessarily. Analytics, my favorite. Google Analytics is free. They just released GA for Google Analytics 4, was it a year and a half ago, and they did away. So if you have a website and you have analytics on it, make sure that you have the latest Google Analytics 4 on it. If you don't, you wouldn't have been getting traffic for the last year plus. And all of your data, it's gone as of July 1st. Google Analytics 4 reads data a little differently. We can find out how many people have come to your site. Where were they located? Are they male or female? How did they come to the site? What search terms did they type in there to get to the site? What kind of device are they using? So when I talk about if they're desktop or mobile, I know to the number how many people have used it. This is iCast just this month. And you can't really see it, but I can't see it either. It's too tiny. But it's really like valuable data, and I always review these monthly for my clients just to find out how is the website performing, is there a dip, what's going on. It's like, it's real with this. And then the last slide is accessibility. This is something that's getting talked about more and more and more. What it is it's making sure that the website is viewable to everyone of every ability. I'm finding, especially if you have a audience who is a slightly older population, these are things you should be doing anyhow, because our eyes are starting to go bad. Mine are starting to go bad. There are screen readers, there are adaptive devices that folks have that they'll put into their, that they'll have on their computers, and instead of being able to read the data traditionally the websites have been able to do, what it does is they'll actually read the words for you. But you have to program the website in a certain way in order to make sure that it's doing it properly. And it's relatively straightforward. Like, I'm starting to just do it automatically with my builds, but it's something you need to be aware of. There are happy lawyers out there who are out there like trying to find businesses that haven't done this or aren't accessible and getting you. So be aware of this. It's huge. I think even the contrast, the color one is just a really basic 101. You need to have enough contrast between colors. My trick is I'll squint a little bit, and if there's not enough contrast between the fonts and the backgrounds behind it, I need to change it. It was a lot. Hopefully not too much. I figure I can always do breakout sessions for deep dive into any of those, but are there any questions? Yes.
Whenever you're looking at the website versus mobile view, whenever you're trying to make edits, as far as like what it looks like in each, does one view, can you start making edits there as how you want it to look? Does that impact how the other one is? How do you do that?
It can. There is a plugin that I use that's like a WYSIWYG page builder. What you see is what you get. And it there's little indicators in it. So overall, the columns that you're putting content in, I can move those around and they will stay where they are for my desktop, and when I'm in mobile moving things around, it will recognize that. So this page building tool is built to recognize that, but there are other little more minor things, like I'll get really picky about a certain font that I have, and I'll want it to be one way on one and maybe a different way, and then I'd have to duplicate it. I can't change fonts between desktop and mobile. However, there's workarounds. You can hide it. So that font area, I can make it so you only see it on desktop. I'm clicking down here because that's where you click it on the builder tool. But there's, you can hide it, and then you'd have a secondary one where you only see it on mobile and tablet, say. So there's, the trick with that though is when you're designing in that, you're only going to see, if you're in the desktop framework, you're only going to see the stuff that's in desktop. You have to make sure that, oh, I switched the homepage image in the banner area or in the top area above the fold, but I have it as a separate box in mobile. You have to make sure you go and do it in the mobile view as well. So it's just remembering where you've done that for consistency. We have two in front, John.
Thank you very much. Can you go into a little bit more with the analytics? Two questions. More on the analytics, and then the second question is like algorithms, as far as like if people are searching you, do you use hashtags? Do you have people Google you to try and find you? So I guess for rankings and stuff like that.
Would you like to know more about analytics?
Just as far as finding it and also, you know, processing it, I guess, for the data.
I want to show. I just want to click around and do it. So for going to analytics, Google Analytics, it's analytics.google.com to get to it. There are two complementary tools. When I go and I set up WordPress sites, I put in a plugin called Google Site Kit. And what that does is it will then go over and talk to my master Google Analytics account, because I manage probably 50 different analytics things. And it'll say, which one do you want me to connect to? Or do you want to create a new one? So I'll go and connect to the one that's there, because typically folks already have them that I work with. And then the other piece that it'll set up, there's Tag Manager. That gets more complicated. You definitely probably want to find someone to help you with that. And what that does is it's getting more specific, tracking what are the paths, like what are they clicking on. It's getting into the deeper specifics for tagging and being able to help follow that process as it flows throughout the web. The other one is Search Console. So it'll automatically set up that as well if you haven't already done that. And what that does is that's now tracking what are they putting into a search engine to find you. That's where I find the specific terms. And that it's just invaluable as far as saying how many people, like impressions do you have, and that here's the search phrase, how many people saw your website pop up under that, and then how many clicks, how many people actually clicked through. So if you're getting a huge number of impressions and it's a search phrase where they really should be clicking on you, you really need to go back and then look at, well, what is the page that loaded? Was it your home page or whatnot? Are you using words in your SEOs? There's a lot for SEO. In your page description and the page title, like Google will, if you specify that, it more than likely will use it, but it won't necessarily do it. Google's changing its way, it does it all the time. But you can investigate, why not? And then there's another Google tool that's called Looker Studio, and that's the one that I use to generate the reports. So I'm sorry that's not bigger, but that's what I did for this is I was able to specify, okay, I know that this, and this. Like I want to know what pages people went to. I want to know where they're from. I want to know, again, devices. And I want to take a look at that every month. And then I can have that report automatically come to me or my clients. It's for us to be able to look at those reports. And that one even has it where you can have multiple tabs of it. So you can do these huge, beautiful reports on it as well. What was the other component? Was search engine optimization? Oh, like what you actually have to do to
search terms.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic. And I work with this SEO person on it where I'll do all the builds and all the data and the technology stuff, but I have a person on my team who does all the SEO that I would bring in instead because, like I said, Google always changes it too, where I don't have the time to keep up. Yeah, thanks.
Two things. One just clarification. The other one just a couple questions.
Yes.
The first one on the analytics.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, that's free through Google.
Yeah.
Is it without name and names on website builder, et cetera, et cetera? Is it as good as the paid stuff?
I mean,
that's pretty vague, but I don't want to compare it to somebody's product. But is it within reason as good as a paid analytics?
What paid tool would you compare it to? I mean,
use Wix. Okay, use Wix for example.
Well, does Wix? Now
actually they include it. But other people.
I was going to say I think that they probably use Google in their product.
Okay, so you could. Okay, so for somebody else, you could be paying for something that's actually free.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, then the other question is, how often should you update your website versus how often should you do a complete revamp?
Oh, well, updating, I mean, as often as you have new content, I'd say if you're not doing it weekly, you need to be. I mean, and it depends on what your purpose is too. It's, if you're doing a lot of social media, and that's a tough one to answer.
Make it simpler. Mine's just portfolio.
Okay. Oh, well, then I would assume that you would have new content regularly coming in, right? So it was just whenever you have new content, be posting it as it goes. It keeps you up to date, or, make sure that it's reflecting your latest work and everything. So I would think that's important. Oh, complete makeover. I have a client where we're just now redesigning their site, and it's been 8 years. Yeah, I mean, if it's done well, it can really hold the test of time. It's where it's not that we haven't touched it in 8 years. We're always doing things in order to reflect what's going on with the business. So the overall design is the same, but you're changing the content. So it's like showing what new events are happening. Like sharing different content. So the content is changing and keeping the site fresh, but the overall foundation of the design stays the same. And I'd say on average, my clients keep the design for at least 5 years. So, I mean, I should probably push them to do it more often, but if it's working, it does.
Yeah, so I have a very general website just to kind of explain my company and where we're at, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Later, I decided to set up something so I could start selling some of my gear online. Mm-hmm. Set up through Squarespace for my original website and then Shopify for selling stuff.
Yeah.
Do you recommend, is there a way to merge those two together, or would you just recommend building my full website through Shopify to make it all in one?
If you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have said have two different ones, but Shopify has changed to the way your abilities for now building out static pages as well. They've really enhanced their tool. So I would think you could do everything through Shopify and keep it easy on yourself and have everything in one location. You may have to take into some considerations in that if you have a lot of traffic coming to your main site, do things like keeping the URLs the same, like the page links the same, so you don't lose traffic, or make sure that you're doing redirects if you are changing any of that so you don't lose that content, because there's reputation stuff. Google's, your reputation with Google you want to keep intact, but make it easy and pull it all into the one.
Thank you.
Sure.
For the site map part, like
Yes.
creating the flow before you create the website, obviously it varies between everyone's business, but is there like a general rule of how many pages you should have or not have, kind of, you know, a good number for like pages on your website?
So most of the sites I work with are with pre-existing content, and every single one of them we get rid of a ton when we go through. I think it's a nature of when we go back to talking about the client who you want to speak to, we have the tendency of just sharing everything we know about everything around my business, and that's not what they care about. So we end up cutting it down considerably. So right now I'm redesigning Safari Club's website, and we're taking it from over 200 pages on the front end, the static, down to, I don't know, probably 75 or 100. Again, because we're just completely changing the way that we're presenting that content. Even with ASA, when we did the redesign, we cut some, but John and I are meeting this Wednesday to take another look at it. So it's been a year and a half that the site's been launched, but we're actually going to do another look. Not doing a redesign, but really taking a look at the content and the design of the pages themselves. So we don't have to do a whole overhaul, but is it, again, saying what we want it to, and are there pages that we could get away with or that are missing? Okay, thank you so much. Oh, yeah, if you have further questions, I'm with ASA while at the show. We have the ASA booth. It's over by the lunch, or this is Lunch and Learn, over by the new product showcase. I'll be there for most of the day, and if I'm not there, just say, hey, can you get a hold of Miriam? Because all of the team members have my contact info, because I want to get some exercise today, too. All right, thanks.